tasted some of them, even if only in memory. Let's start right there, where it all begins, in that sacred space between a grandmother's hands and a simmering pot. The Sunday dinner spread. You remember that table, don't you? Covered in mismatched plates, each one trembling under the weight of collard greens, baked macaroni, fried chicken, and cornbread that glistened with a slick of melted butter. Sunday wasn't Sunday without that meal. It wasn't just food, it was a declaration. We made it through another week. You could smell the smoke of fatback curling into the greens, taste the vinegar's sharp whisper as she added just a drop to wake it up. You might even recall the way she'd hum a hymn, soft, steady, as if blessing the food with her voice. That meal was structure. It trained your body to anticipate comfort after struggle. Today the rhythm's broken. Drive-thrus replace that sacred ritual. The table's empty more often than not. Do you ever catch yourself craving that Sunday silence before everyone gathered? That brief, holy moment when you could hear the cornbread crack as it cooled? Iron skillet fried chicken. You never forget the sound. That sizzle when seasoned flour hit hot grease in the heavy black skillet that never left her stove. It wasn't just fried chicken. It was a performance. Every batch came out with that perfect crunch, golden and proud, because that skillet held memory. Science would tell you that iron holds heat evenly, giving that chicken its uniform crispness. But you and I both know there was more to it. That invisible seasoning from decades of use, passed down like an heirloom. She'd shake it off the same way every time, hand steady as gospel, and tell you to never let the oil burn. That's where the bitterness hides. Now, air fryers hum where skillets once sang. The meat cooks, but it doesn't feel the same. Tell me, when was the last time you burned your fingertips sneaking a piece before dinner was called? And it was worth every sting. Collard greens with smoked meat. You can smell it before you see it. That deep, earthy aroma of greens simmering for hours, softened by smoked turkey or ham hock. It wasn't just cooking, it was patience in motion. The kitchen became a sermon on endurance. Every leaf was washed, folded, and torn by hand. You learned discipline there, in that slow rhythm. What your grandmother knew instinctively was chemistry, the acid from vinegar or pepper sauce cutting through the fat, unlocking flavors that lingered longer than any spice rub could. The smoke infused every cell of those greens, binding memory to flavor. Today's world rushes everything. Quick-boiled greens, instant seasoning packets. The soul's missing. The weight was part of the taste. Do you still hear the slow bubble of the pot when you close your eyes? That low, steady sound that said, "Some things can't be rushed." Sweet potato pie. She didn't measure. She felt it. A scoop of sugar here, a splash of vanilla there, mashed sweet potatoes whipped until smooth enough to reflect the light. That orange glow under the oven lamp was hypnotic. You'd wait for it to cool, knowing she'd swat your hand if you even thought about touching it too soon. Sweet potato pie wasn't just dessert, it was legacy. Born in kitchens where pumpkin pie was off limits, where resourcefulness became art. Those pies carried whispers of African roots, yams reborn through centuries of adaptation. Each bite hit you with warmth that wasn't just flavor, it was history made edible. Now it's seasonal, a Thanksgiving cameo. But back then, it was love served year-round. Be honest, do you still remember the way she'd cut you that corner slice? The one with the crust just a little burnt but perfectly sweet? Cornbread baked in a cast-iron skillet. That first bite, crisp on the edges, soft at the center, told you everything you needed to know about your grandmother's skill. She'd heat that skillet first, pour in the batter so it hissed, sealing a golden crust before the oven even touched it. That was physics and instinct dancing together. Cornmeal, buttermilk, a whisper of sugar if she felt generous, the kind of simplicity that took decades to master. The smell hit different, buttermilk's tang, the faint smoke of bacon grease she brushed inside before the batter went in. You learned texture there, how something could be soft and strong at the same time. Today, box mixes promise convenience, but none carry the weight of those cast-iron edges, those tiny burn marks of memory. Do you ever wish you could taste that corner piece again? The one she called the good part? Homemade biscuits and red-eye gravy. Flour dusted the counter like snow. She didn't roll, she patted. Cut each biscuit with an old tin can, edges rough, no perfection in sight, just promise. The secret was always in the fat. Cold lard or butter worked quick into the dough. The rest was prayer and practice. Then came that strange but perfect sauce, red-eye gravy, made from coffee and ham drippings. Sharp, smoky, slightly bitter, but somehow right. That combination woke you up better than any alarm clock. The salt and caffeine hit your blood before the morning sun did. It was country chemistry. Caffeine plus sodium equals alertness and comfort all at once. Now biscuits come frozen, gravy from a jar. But do you still feel that warmth spreading through your hands when you tore one open, steam rising like a secret? Butterbeans and rice. Simple, humble, unapologetic. Butterbeans weren't glamorous, but they filled you up in a way fast food never could. She'd simmer them slow, with a ham bone if she had one, salt and pepper if she didn't. That soft, buttery texture was the taste of thrift turned into triumph. Rice wasn't side, it was survival. Every grain stretched a meal further. She taught you early. Food wasn't waste, it was wisdom. You learned economy and grace in the same bowl. Today we scroll past beans on menus like they're beneath us, forgetting how they once built us. When was the last time you cleaned your plate because you didn't dare waste her effort? Hot water cornbread. No leavening, no excuses. Just cornmeal, salt, and boiling water shaped into patties and dropped into oil. It came out crisp, golden, humble. This was Depression-era survival. It came from necessity. When flour ran out, but dignity didn't. She made it look effortless. You could hear the pop of grease as she flipped each one, humming like the rhythm kept her steady. The texture stayed with you. Crunchy. Outside, tender heart. A food that spoke the language of endurance. Now, it's a rarity. You even remember it existed. If someone handed you a piece right now, would you recognize it by touch alone? Black-eyed peas for New Year's Day. You can almost hear her voice even now. Eat your black-eyed peas for good luck, baby. The pot would simmer all morning, low and slow, the smell of onions and smoked meat drifting through the house while you got dressed for church. Each little bean carried superstition and science, iron for the blood, protein for the bones, hope for the new year. She'd ladle it out with rice or cornbread, her eyes soft with memory. You might not have realized it then, but that ritual came from centuries back, from West African spiritual traditions that crossed the ocean in shackles and survived through pots and prayers. Today, New Year's is champagne and fireworks, but back then, it was peas and gratitude. When the clock strikes midnight now, do you ever think about what she believed? That one simple bowl could shape your whole year? Molasses glazed ham. That glossy ham sitting at the center of the holiday table. That was her masterpiece. The smell alone could make a house feel alive. She'd mix brown sugar, mustard, and molasses into a glaze so thick it felt sinful, basting it every few minutes until the edges turned candy crisp. You could hear that faint crackle as the glaze hardened under the oven's heat. The sweetness clung to your fingers long after the meal ended. That was chemistry too, the caramelization of sugar binding flavor to fat. She might not have known the science, but she understood the magic. Now the store-bought spiral ham tries to mimic it. Pre-glazed, pre-sliced, but soulless. Wouldn't you trade every polished platter in the world for one more bite of her burnt sweet crust? Chitlins, chitterlings. That smell. You either loved it or you ran from it. There was no middle ground. She'd clean them for hours, boiling and scrubbing until they were ready to cook. It wasn't glamorous, but it was heritage, a tradition born out of having to make use of what others threw away. She knew exactly how long to let them boil, how much vinegar to add to cut through that heavy scent. To outsiders, it was just awful. To her, it was proof of endurance, the power to turn scraps into celebration. Few today would take on that labor, that patience, that pride. Do you remember holding your breath but eating? Anyway, just because she said, "Don't judge what feeds you," gumbo that could feed a village. You remember how the pot looked endless, bubbling, colorful, loud with spice and smoke. Every family had its own version, but the spirit was the same. Take what you have and make it sacred. Okra thickened it, shrimp danced in it, and that roux, dark as chocolate, was the foundation. She'd stir for what felt like forever, because gumbo demanded respect. You couldn't rush the browning. The flavors came from the old world and the new. African okra, Native American file, French technique. Each ladle was a history lesson. Now gumbo's on restaurant menus with fancy garnishes, but it rarely carries the same soul. When was the last time you saw a meal that brought the whole block through your door? Pig feet and pigtails. They boiled for hours, sometimes overnight. The smell filled every corner. You might wrinkle your nose now, but back then, this was pride. Those dishes came from the nothing years, when every part of the animal mattered. The collagen-rich broth gave shine to skin, strength to bones, and comfort to hearts. She'd season it heavy: garlic, onion, a splash of vinegar. Then let time do the rest. The result was tender, sticky, and unforgettable. Modern diets call it unhealthy, but she called it nourishment. Would you still turn away if you remembered how it tasted with her hot sauce? How it melted right off the bone? Stewed okra and tomatoes. That pot on the back burner was a small miracle. Okra and tomatoes stewed together until they became one. Bright red, slightly slimy, but perfect with rice. The texture turned some people off, but she'd just laugh. "That's how you know it's real," she'd say. That dish was the meeting point of African roots in southern soil. Okra, brought over through the Middle Passage, had traveled continents to end up here. Its mucilage, that slippery quality, was more than texture. It thickened stews, preserved moisture, made poor ingredients stretch farther. Today we chase clean textures and sterile plates, forgetting the beauty in imperfection. When was the last time food made you feel connected to something older than yourself? Sweet tea, the house standard. Before soda ruled the fridge, sweet tea ruled the house. You knew summer had started when the pitcher appeared. She'd boil the tea bags until the kitchen filled with that deep, earthy scent, then stir in sugar until the spoon stood up on its own. No measuring, just instinct and memory. Then came the ice, clinking like wind chimes in a glass. That drink wasn't just refreshment, it was community. Every porch conversation started with, "You want some tea?" Now, bottled brands claim the name, but none the spirit. Do you still stir your tea till it shines amber, or has sweetness lost its patience? Liver and onions, a dish that separated the grown folks from the kids. You remember that smell? Rich, iron-heavy, seared until brown, onions softening in the pan beside it. It was one of those meals that taught you respect. You didn't have to love it, but you had to eat it. Your grandmother knew its worth. Liver was packed with nutrients: iron, vitamin A, protein. It was medicine disguised as dinner. She'd soak it in milk first to tame the bitterness, then fry it just right. Science and instinct again. Now it's vanished from most tables, forgotten for fancier meats. Would you recognize that taste now if someone served it with onions so sweet they melted on your tongue? Rice pudding. That was her gentle dessert. Not flashy, not loud, just rice, milk, sugar, and cinnamon bubbling into something that felt like comfort made visible. The kitchen smelled of warmth and quiet joy. It was food that tucked you in, proof that sweetness didn't have to shout to be felt. She'd save the last bit of rice from dinner, never letting waste win. In her hands, leftovers became love. Now dessert means store-bought, sugar without soul. Do you ever miss that creamy hush after a long day? That soft spoonful that told you everything was all right? Field peas and snap beans. You'd find her sitting on the porch snapping beans into a metal bowl, her fingers working faster than you could watch. The rhythm of the snaps was music, the sound of patience, of generations talking without words. Those beans boiled slow, with bits of onion and salt pork, filling the air with a scent that spelled home. It was the original soul food symphony. Nothing wasted, everything used. Today, few even grow these crops, let alone sit to clean them. Do you remember that sound? The soft snap echoing between laughter and storytelling on long summer afternoons? Homemade ice cream, cranked by hand. Remember the churn? The crank squeaking as ice and salt froze the cream inside. That was family teamwork. One kid cranking, another holding, everyone waiting. You could taste the effort in every scoop. The sweet vanilla, the slight saltiness from the brine, the joy of reward earned. She didn't need electric gadgets, she needed time and people. That was the recipe. Now, ice cream comes from machines, quick and sterile. The magic's gone. Do you still remember how it felt to watch the cream harden, knowing every turn brought you closer to delight? Peach cobbler, the crown jewel. The finale, always the finale. You could smell it before you saw it. Peaches bubbling under a crust so buttery it flaked at a glance. She'd sprinkle sugar on top so it caramelized in the oven, forming that golden lid of heaven. The first spoonful was both hot and sweet, melting into memory. Cobbler wasn't just dessert, it was ritual, the last note in the song of a good meal. Today, it's mass-produced, crust too perfect, flavor too flat. But hers was poetry baked in cast iron. If you close your eyes, can you still taste it? That balance of syrup and warmth that made every Sunday feel eternal? You know what's wild? Every one of those dishes wasn't just food, It was philosophy, a quiet lesson passed down without words, coded into every stir of the spoon, every pinch of salt. And if you grew up in that world, you didn't even realize you were being taught how to survive, not just how to eat. Grandmothers in those kitchens were chemists, artists, healers, historians. They could look at a half-empty pantry and somehow make abundance. A few beans, some rice, a heel of cornbread, and suddenly there was a feast, laughter, and leftovers to send home. You never left hungry, you never left unblessed. Because here's the truth, those food traditions weren't random. They were the outcome of a deeper story, survival under pressure. When you couldn't afford much, you learned to elevate the little you had. You used flavor as resistance, salt pork instead of steak, collard greens instead of kale, sweet potatoes instead of fancy desserts. And yet, they didn't just make do, they made magic. Each pot, each plate, each ritual was an act of remembering, of keeping Africa, the South, and family alive all at once. And now, so much of that knowledge is slipping away, replaced by convenience, speed, and silence. But if you listen close enough, the recipes are still whispering. Think about how much you learned without anyone saying a thing. You learned how patience tastes in those greens that took hours to soften. You learned how memory smells in that pie cooling on the counter. You learned generosity from the way she'd make a little stretch. The kitchen was a classroom. What's fascinating is how much of that soul food wisdom aligns with real nutrition and science. When she soaked beans overnight, she was breaking down complex sugars that caused bloating. When she cooked with bones or ham hocks, she was extracting collagen and minerals, what we now sell as bone broth. When she paired greens with vinegar or hot sauce, that acid helped your body absorb the iron better. She might not have had a degree in biology, but she knew. Centuries of observation and intuition turned into oral science, passed down like folklore. And maybe that's why her food healed in ways that medicine couldn't. Because it wasn't just about nutrients. It was about care, repetition, ritual. It taught your nervous system what safety felt like. The moment that smell hit your nose, your shoulders dropped. Your breath slowed. You were home. Food had a rhythm. Start in the morning, eat by evening, rest after. It mirrored the rhythm of the week, of the seasons, of the ancestors. Now we microwave, multitask, and forget to taste. Maybe that's what we've lost. Not just the recipes, but the pace. The deliberate act of showing love one spoonful at a time. You remember how everyone had a seat, even if the table was too small? Kids at one end, grown folks at the other. Somebody always bringing an extra chair from the living room. The air thick with laughter, teasing, and that deep hum of togetherness. That table was sacred space. No one pulled out their phone. No one rushed to leave. You ate, you talked, you listened, you belonged. In African American tradition, the table has always been a quiet altar, a place to affirm dignity in a world that tried to strip it away. Sharing food was an act of unity, and every meal became a reunion of the living and the remembered. When's the last time you sat at a table and stayed there, long after the food was gone? Somewhere between progress and convenience, the flavor shifted. The recipes still exist, written in old notebooks, folded into Bibles, or passed down by memory. But the taste isn't quite the same. Maybe it's the ingredients, maybe it's the pace of life, or maybe it's the absence of those hands that stirred with faith, not formula. Butter became margarine, bacon grease became olive oil, fresh vegetables gave way to frozen ones. It's not bad, just different. But something got lost in translation, the soul. Still, every now and then, you catch it. That faint echo, maybe in a bite of cornbread made right, or in the smell of fried chicken at a summer cookout. And for a second, time folds in on itself. You're right back there, barefoot on her kitchen floor, waiting for the taste that built your childhood. Maybe the most important thing now is remembering that these traditions aren't gone, just waiting. So, if tonight you decide to make something from that world, maybe a pot of greens or a pie from scratch, take a second to pause before you taste it. Close your eyes, feel the weight of the spoon, smell the memory coming back to life. That's not just food, that's inheritance. And before you take that first bite, whisper what she used to say. Now, walk through any modern kitchen and listen. Do you hear it? No gospel hums in the background, no cast iron sizzling, no hands kneading dough just to feel the texture of love becoming real. We've traded slow time for convenience, soul for speed. The family table, once a sacred altar, now fights for space between phone screens and takeout boxes. Grandmothers used to cook with intention. They didn't just ask if you were hungry, they asked if you were okay. They could look in your eyes and tell if you needed more than a plate. And that's what we're losing. Not the recipes, those can be rewritten. It's the ritual, the reverence, the rhythm of care passed from one heartbeat to the next. But here's the miracle. These traditions don't really vanish. They rest, waiting to be remembered. Because the first time you try to recreate her cornbread and the smell fills your kitchen, she's there. The moment you stir greens and hum an old tune without realizing it, she's there. Every time you say, a little more seasoning, and trust your soul instead of the recipe, she's right there. And that's the quiet power of legacy. The flavors outlive the cook. That's why you still make that sweet tea in the sunlight, why you still rinse your greens 3 times, why you still feel guilty throwing away good bones. It's not superstition, it's remembrance. When you cook the old way, you're not just feeding your stomach, you're feeding your lineage. You're whispering, I remember you. Maybe now it's your turn. Maybe the next time your child asks why you're frying chicken in that heavy skillet, you'll tell them, because this is how my grandma did it. And when they grow up, maybe they'll do the same. Not out of duty, but devotion. Because food is the one inheritance that never runs out. It multiplies with every memory, grows richer with every story retold. Even when the ingredients change, the essence stays the same. Patience, prayer, presence. Those are the true seasonings. So here's to the grandmothers, the quiet architects of comfort, to the women who turned scraps into Sunday feasts, who seasoned with faith and stirred with love, to the voices that told us, sit down and eat, baby, when the world felt too heavy. Their recipes were never meant to be perfect. They were meant to be felt. And even as time moves on, somewhere between the aroma of frying catfish and the warmth of fresh cornbread, their love still lingers. Because home isn't a place. It's a plate, a memory, and a prayer whispered over food that will never be forgotten. Don't let these memories fade. If you like this clip about grandma's feeding the soul through her cooking, honor it by clicking on the card showing on the screen. And don't forget to share your favorite tradition below.